The desert sun dipped low over the runway, painting the sky in molten gold as the sleek silhouette of a Gulfstream private jet rested against the horizon. A lone figure, windswept and alive with defiance, barreled down the tarmac, heels clicking like sharp drum beats against the concrete. Dust swirled around her, carrying the tang of hot metal and distant sagebrush. Arabella Bella Sinclair skidded to a halt at the jet's rear staircase, chest heaving, eyes blazing with equal parts. Fear and fury. Her leather jacket, scuffed and worn, smelled of rain-damp asphalt and second-hand smoke. Beneath her, her worn boots felt oddly triumphant. I refuse to be anyone's victim again. She clutched a crumpled boarding pass in one hand and a faded photograph. In the other, proof of a past she would obliterate rather than surrender. The door to the cabin hissed open. From within emerged Alexander Callahan, billionaire tycoon, media phantom, the man who could make or break her world with a single signature. He wore midnight blue tailored trousers and a crisp white shirt, every inch the embodiment of unshakable power. Yet, behind the steel-blue calm of his gaze lurked a loneliness deeper than any desert canyon. "Ms. Sinclair," he said, voice low and resonant, carrying the faintest trace of surprise. "You're early." Her reply was a crooked grin, equal parts challenge and exhaustion. "I'm never late when I'm running for my life." He stepped aside, gesturing toward the cabin. The hush that followed felt like the quiet before a storm. Inside, plush leather seats were arranged in a semicircle around a polished mahogany table. A single rose in a crystal vase breathed its vanilla-sweet fragrance into the charged air. Alexander's eyes flickered to the rose, and then back to Bella. "I see you found my invitation." Sweat beaded at her hairline. "Your invitation? Or your decree?" He held up a contract, its pages bound by a heavy, gold-embossed cover. Callahan-Sinclair Agreement. Beneath their signatures lay terms as cold and unyielding as the desert night. A 6-month marriage of convenience in exchange for the restitution of her daughter's medical debts. Belle's breath caught. The stakes had been laid bare in black and white. Sign or watch her child's future crumble. This man holds every card. Yet even as her pulse thundered, an ember of defiance glowed within. She squared her shoulders and met his gaze. "You're asking me to pretend to be your wife." He inclined his head. "Precisely. A union to shield me from the board's scrutiny, and to ensure your daughter's treatment continues uninterrupted." His fingers tapped the contract, an almost musical rhythm. "Sign, and you save her. Refuse, and, well." Her stomach twisted. Memories flashed. The day she'd held her little girl, while doctors shook their heads, the sterile scent of hospital corridors, the anguished prayers whispered in the darkness. "I need more time," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Alexander's jaw tightened, a storm gathering behind those unyielding eyes. "Time is a luxury I cannot afford, Ms. Sinclair." He leaned forward, the rose between them catching the light. "Life and death decisions don't wait for sentiment." Bella's fingers brushed the pen. The metal felt heavy, like a weight around her heart. For her daughter. In that instant, the jet's engines roared to life, a thunderous reminder that the world outside, or beneath, did not pause for anguish. She inhaled the mingled scents of jet fuel and rose petals, of power and desperation. Then, with trembling resolve, she signed her name. The pen clicked. Her future, a contract bound by pain and necessity, was sealed. Alexander set the pen aside, eyes softening ever so slightly. Welcome aboard, Mrs. Callahan. Her pulse spiked. The title felt foreign, like a gilded cage. And yet, a swirl of emotions, defiance, dread, something like hope, trembled beneath the surface. He guided her to the plush seat opposite his, offering a single, gloved hand. She hesitated, then placed her fingers in his palm. His grip was firm, steadying, yet restrained by the elegance of his cuff-linked sleeve. "How very wrong you are to think you own me," Bella thought, but the words died on her lips. As the jet taxied, the cabin lights dimmed to a soft amber glow. Outside, the desert night unfurled in blankets of inky velvet sprinkled with distant stars. Inside, the distance between two wounded souls felt both vast and terrifyingly intimate. Alexander broke the silence. "Tell me about your daughter." His voice carried genuine curiosity, an emotion not often extended by men of his stature. Bella's throat tightened. "Her name is Lily. She's 7. She likes to draw. Even pencils are a luxury sometimes, so she uses chalk on our living room wall." She managed a small, rueful laugh. "I threatened to wash it off, but she said, 'Mom, that's my story.'" A flicker of warmth crossed Alexander's face, an expression she had expected to be starved from his eyes. "She's wise beyond her years, or innocent enough to believe that stories can't be erased." Bella's gaze dropped to the contract on the table. "I never thought I'd trade my name for hers." He leaned back, exhaling in a soft sigh. "Sometimes we barter with our identities for the ones we love most." He understands sacrifice. For a heartbeat, their gazes met and held. Two solitary figures bound by necessity, betrayal, and a fragile spark of empathy. Outside, the engines hummed, propelling them toward a destiny they could neither foresee nor escape. A cool breeze stirred through a vent, carrying with it the scent of ozone and polished leather. Bella closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sensation ground her. "I will not break. For Lily." When she opened them, Alexander was watching her, his expression unreadable. Then he reached across the table, grazing her hand with the back of his thumb. It was a fleeting touch, almost accidental, yet it set her pulse racing like wildfire. He quickly withdrew, clearing his throat. "We'll need to rehearse. Public appearances, statements, smiles. Our first engagement is tomorrow evening, at the Montecito Gala." Bella swallowed. "Tomorrow?" He nodded. "Sunset. The cameras will be waiting." A storm of panic and defiance roiled in her chest. "I can't pretend to be something I'm not." Yet, as she watched his composed features, she sensed that behind the facade of control lay a man equally adrift. He rose from his seat and crossed to the rear of the cabin. Opening a concealed compartment, he retrieved a small velvet box. Inside lay a diamond necklace, subtle yet undeniably opulent, its facets like miniature galaxies. "For the gala," Alexander said, offering the box. "An accessory for our marriage." Bella stared at the jewels, the weight of their reality pressing down. She closed her fist around the box. "I'll wear these for my daughter." Turning to him, she lifted her chin. "Do you know anything about who I am?" He paused, eyes darkening. "Only what has been necessary." She studied him. Powerful man, hidden kindness, tragic past. "I wonder if he's as wounded as I am." "I won't be a trophy," she said softly. "I'll be a mother fighting for her child." Alexander's gaze held hers. "And I won't let anyone harm you, for any reason." His words, simple yet sincere, resonated deep in her bones. Beneath the high-stakes contract and the blinding facade of power, perhaps there was something real, something neither of them dared name. A distant rumble shook the cabin as the jet climbed higher. Bella pressed her forehead to the cool window, watching the desert shrink into an endless tapestry of shadows and light. She closed her eyes, feeling the hum of the engines beneath her, and whispered into the hush, "For Lily, I will do whatever it takes." Beside her, Alexander settled back into his own seat. A hush fell once more, charged with unspoken questions and guarded hopes. And as the jet bore them further into the night, two wounded hearts prepared to dance on the edge of a promise. Neither fully understood, but both were destined to keep. The Gulf Stream touched down on the private tarmac of Callahan Estate as twilight's lavender hues faded to ink. The air outside smelled of creosote and distant jasmine, a perfume both wild and civilized. Bella stepped onto the ground, her boots whispering against the cobblestones. This place is a palace built on secrets. Alexander watched her from the cabin doorway, the amber glow behind him framing his silhouette like a dark angel. He offered her his arm, and she hesitated, then placed her hand in his. Inside the grand foyer, flickering lanterns cast dancing shadows across marble floors, veined with rosewood inlays. A hush fell, broken only by the distant trill of a nightingale. Bella's heart pounded, as if heralding an omen. He guided her through an archway draped with ivory silks. "Your suite is prepared," he murmured, voice low enough that only she could hear. The room was a study in opulence, satin sheets, plush rugs that brushed her ankles, and a canopy bed framed by hand-carved pillars. Candlelight waltzed on gilded, mirrors and polished bronze fixtures. Every surface gleamed, yet the luxury felt hollow. Bella traced the edge of a velvet chaise. "I hardly expected hospitality." Alexander closed the door behind them, the latch clicking like a snare. "Consider it part of my investment." His expression was neutral, but his eyes flickered with something unreadable. "Investment? I am nothing but collateral." She turned to face him. "When does this farce begin? I have a daughter who needs her mother." He took a step closer, the faint scent of oud and sandalwood enveloping her. "Tomorrow at sunset, the gala. Tonight, you rest." Bella bristled, but exhaustion tugged at her bones. She nodded, setting her jaw. "Rest, then." He left, closing the door so softly she barely heard it. The echo of his footsteps lingered, a promise or a threat she couldn't yet decipher. Must stay sharp. Nothing about this is as it seems. She moved to the window and drew aside the velvet curtain. Below, lantern-lit gardens unfurled in geometric patterns, fountains whispering, statues frozen in eternal embrace. Beyond them, the desert stretched in solemn silhouette. This oasis is as much a prison as it is a refuge. A muffled click behind her made her whirl around. On the bedside table lay a small silver tray, 2 glasses of water, and an envelope embossed with a single calligraphic A. Her pulse fluttered as she opened it. Inside was a handwritten note. "Bella, there is more at stake than you know. Tomorrow, trust only our whispered words." A no signature, no flourish, just an initial. Bella's breath hitched. He knows more about me than he said. A soft breeze stirred the candles, making their flames dance. The whisper of silk against silk signaled someone behind her. She spun and froze. Across the room stood Lily. Her daughters, wide eyes shimmered with frightened wonder. The little girl had somehow slipped through corridors and negotiations to stand in her mother's chamber, clutching a tattered teddy bear. "Mommy?" Lily's voice was a fragile wisp. Bella's world fractured and reformed in an instant. She dropped to her knees, gathering Lily into her arms. The bear's fur smelled of home, worn and comforting. How did she get here? Alexander appeared at the doorway, his face unreadable in the candlelight. "I ensured your daughter's arrival," he said quietly. "I couldn't risk anything happening to her." Bella's heart thundered with relief and fury. "You lied to me, but you saved her." He stepped forward, stoic yet vulnerable. "I needed to prove I meant what I said." His gaze softened as he looked at Lily, then back to Bella. "She's safe." Tears stung Bella's eyes. She brushed a strand of hair from Lily's forehead. "Thank you. I think." Lily pressed her cheek to her mother's. "I drew you a picture." She reached into her pocket and handed a folded paper to Bella. Unfolding it, Bella's breath caught. The sketch depicted a small house with a heart above the door, its walls lined with children holding hands. In the corner, a single name: Callahan Orphanage. Bella looked up at Alexander, incredulous. "You own an orphanage?" He nodded, voice hushed. "Anonymously. I fund it. Lily inspired me." A tremor of astonishment and unbidden warmth flickered through her. Beneath his imperious veneer lay a man moved by a child's innocence. "There's kindness in there somewhere." He turned away and gestured toward a side door. "Your bed awaits, Mrs. Callahan." Bella rose, cradling Lily. She tucked the drawing into the pocket of her jacket, a talisman of hope and mystery, both. As Alexander closed the door behind her, the lock clicked. Alone in the room, Bella stared at the portrait. Moonlight filtered through gauzy drapes, casting silver ribbons across the floor. She pressed the sketch to her heart. This contract may bind me, but his secret could save us both. Above, in the hush of the night, the Callahan clock chimed midnight. Each toll felt like a heartbeat, counting down to the dawn when their charade would begin, and when the first true test of their forced union would unfold. The ballroom doors swung open to reveal a cascade of crystal chandeliers, their prisms scattering rainbows across the polished marble floor. Silk-gowned guests drifted like orchids on a breeze, laughter mingling with the soft strains of a string quartet. The air was scented with rose water and champagne, sweet, heady, intoxicating. Bella paused, clutching Lily's hand as she took in the scene. Her gown, loaned by Alexander's private couturier, hugged her curves in midnight blue silk that whispered against her skin. She felt exposed, like prey under 1,000 curious glances. "Remember why you're here." Alexander materialized at her side, tuxedo flawless, his presence a shield against the world's appraisal. He dipped into a bow as they entered, eyes sweeping the room with practiced control. A hush rippled through the crowd. Cameras clicked, and a golden-haired socialite stepped forward, extended a gloved hand. "Mr. Callahan," she purred, lips painted scarlet. "Such a surprise to see you so accompanied." Bella's throat tightened. Defiance flared. She lifted her chin, offering a polite nod. The woman's smile faltered, unaccustomed to a competitor's gaze. "They expect me to be silent." "I won't be." Alexander guided Bella through clusters of murmuring guests, each offering veiled congratulations or thinly veiled disdain. A glass of champagne appeared in her hand, its bubbles dancing like starlight, yet the sweetness turned, sharp on her tongue. From across the room, a tall figure approached, dark hair slicked back, eyes glittering with amusement. Marcus Whitcomb, billionaire rival, ex-flame of Bella's youth, and the man whose schemes had nearly destroyed her family's business years ago. He stopped before them, a predatory smile curling his lips. "Well, isn't this unexpected? The Callahans throwing a gala for the sake of a charity orphanage." His gaze flicked to Lily, then back to Bella. "And who is this precious charge?" Alexander's hand tightened around Bella's elbow. "This is my wife," he said quietly. "And our daughter." Gasps rippled through the crowd as Bella felt every eye bore into her. Marcus's smile widened, cruelty lacing his tone. "Your daughter? How touching. I never imagined you settling down, Bella." Bella's heart hammered, but she stood tall. "Neither did I." Music swelled as the string quartet shifted into a waltz. Gentle lantern light played across Marcus's smug face, an omen of the battles to come. Alexander inclined his head to Bella. "Shall we?" He offered his hand. She placed hers in his, the warmth of his palm steadying her. Together, they stepped onto the dance floor, eyes locked, not in passion, but in determination. As they turned beneath the chandelier's glow, Bella felt the weight of every promise she'd made, for Lily, for herself, and for this man beside her. The night stretched before them, glittering and treacherous, and she knew the true test of their union was only beginning. Outside, desert wind whispered against the mansion walls, carrying secrets of betrayals yet to come. Secrets that would threaten everything they'd just begun to build. They glided through the final waltz notes, the music tapering into a single, soaring violin chord. Alexander led Bella from the dance floor, offering his arm as they made their way down a torchlit corridor lined with orchids. Guards in crisp uniforms bowed as they passed, the hush punctuated only by the soft click of Bella's heels on marble. At the end of the hall, he stopped before a pair of heavy oak doors. Inside lay their shared suite for the night, an antechamber, strewn with rose petals and lit by flickering sconces. Bella's heart thudded as she crossed the threshold, every sense alive with tension and expectation. Alexander closed the doors behind them and turned to her, the amber light lending his features an almost tender softness. He removed his jacket and draped it over a nearby chaise, then offered her a glass of sparkling water. She took it with trembling fingers. "Are you comfortable?" he asked, voice low. She glanced around the sumptuous room. Gold damask wallpaper, an antique writing desk, an ornate four-poster bed hung with silk drapes. Yet, beneath the luxury, she felt an undercurrent of something darker. Before she could reply, her eyes fell on an envelope perched on the desk, sealed with red wax bearing the Callahan crest. Alexander saw her look. "Open it," he said gently. With a mix of curiosity and dread, Bella broke the seal. Inside was a faded photograph, her at 10 years old, standing beside a woman Alexander recognized at once, his long-lost sister, presumed dead in a tragic accident. In the corner, in the same childish scrawl as her drawing of the orphanage, was a single word: Lena. Bella's breath caught. Lena Sinclair, her late mother, had been rumored to have worked at Callahan Industries before her disappearance. Alexander stepped closer. "I never told you because I wasn't sure you'd believe me. But your mother, she was the first to show me kindness in a world of cutthroat ambition." Tears blurred Bella's vision. Her defiance wavered in the face of this revelation. Her mother and Alexander's family history were intertwined. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Tonight, we pretend to be strangers, bound by contract. But I believe our families have been connected long before this. Bella's chest clenched, betrayal, wonder, hope, all colliding. She pressed the photograph to her heart. The past she thought buried had just resurfaced in his hidden oasis, and their forced union held secrets neither of them yet understood. Outside, the desert wind sighed through the estate, as if heralding the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. The sun's first light seeped through gauzy curtains, dust motes drifting in slender shafts of gold. Bella awoke on plush sheets. Lily curled against her side like a warm stone. The gentle rise and fall of the child's breathing was a balm to her anxieties. Across the room, Alexander stood at the window, hands clasped behind his back. His silhouette was rigid, an unspoken fortress of control. Yet, as Bella watched him, she noticed the tremor of uncertainty in his stance, as though he, too, wrestled with restless dreams. We're both captives of our pasts, she thought. She slipped from the bed, careful not to wake Lily, and crossed the room. On the writing desk lay Bella's sketch of the orphanage, framed by blossoms in a delicate vase. She traced the edges of the paper, feeling its promise of hope and kindness. Alexander turned, surprise softening his features. "Good morning," he said, voice hushed. "Morning," Bella replied. "Sleep well." He shook his head. "I couldn't rest." His gaze drifted to the sketch. "You keep that close?" She tucked it into her blouse. "It reminds me why I agreed to this madness." He studied her, eyes narrowed with quiet admiration. "Your sacrifice humbles me." Bella's heart fluttered, an unfamiliar warmth that she quickly quelled. "Let's get through today's schedule," she said, turning to the tray of breakfast laid out with surgical precision. As they ate fresh berries, prosciutto, and artisanal bread, Alexander outlined the day, a private meeting with the orphanages. Board, followed by a press conference announcing the Callahan Charitable Trust. Every word was measured, every moment choreographed. Bella listened, arms folded. "Why go to such lengths for a cause you keep secret?" she asked after a pause. He swallowed. "Because kindness deserves to live beyond the facades we wear." His eyes held hers, sincerity shining through the usual reserve. He truly cares. But before she could probe deeper, the door opened and Marcus Whitcomb swept in, flanked by two sharply dressed assistants. His grin was a blade wrapped in silk. "Morning, Mr. Callahan." Marcus purred, voice oily. He nodded at Bella. "Mrs. Callahan!" Bella bristled, but Alexander rose to greet him. The tension between the rivals crackled like static. "Marcus," Alexander said coolly, "I believe we have much to discuss." Marcus's gaze flicked to the sketch in Bella's hand. "Planning your next charity, Bella? Or drafting new designs for a mural at your daughter's school?" Bella's cheeks warmed. "It's for the orphanage." Marcus laughed softly. "Always the artist. But let's talk business. There's talk of a merger between Callahan Industries and New Tech Global. I'd hate for personal affairs to muddy boardroom waters." Alexander's jaw tightened. "My personal life will not affect corporate decisions." Marcus smiled, eyes glinting. "Of course not, but shareholders might see things differently." He dropped the remark like a stone in still water and departed, leaving a wake of unease. Alexander closed the door behind him and exhaled. "That man will stop at nothing," Bella murmured. He nodded. He's already leaked whispers that our marriage is a stunt. He'll plant doubts that you're here under duress and that I'm exploiting you. Bella's blood ran cold. Then we fight back, with truth. Late morning, the convoy rolled toward the outskirts of Montecito, where Callahan Orphanage stood, an ivy-clad building of faded rose brick. A crowd of eager children swarmed the steps, their laughter a chorus of innocence. Bella stepped from the car, heart pounding, as a little boy offered her a bouquet of wildflowers, sun-kissed daisies and lavender sprigs. Their fragrance filled the crisp air, carrying promise. She knelt to accept them. "Thank you," she said softly. "They're beautiful." The children's eyes shone as they watched her. She realized then how genuine their hope was, for a chance at joy, for a future unclouded by loss. Alexander joined her, smiling as he tousled a young girl's hair. Bella watched him transform, tycoon to caretaker in a single gesture. She felt an unexpected ache in her chest. Inside, the orphanage hall was awash with light from tall windows. Portraits of donors lined the walls, but Bella saw one familiar face missing, her mother's. She leaned close to Alexander. "Your sister, Lena. Did she ever speak of this place?" His voice softened. "She helped build it before she vanished. She believed every child deserved a safe haven." Bella's pulse quickened. "My mother. She poured her soul into orphaned children too. Maybe that was how she met you." He offered his arm, and she took it. Together, they toured the classrooms and art studios, spaces bursting with color and laughter. Bella spotted Lily in a corner, teaching two younger children chalk drawing on a small easel. She knelt beside them, and Lily hugged her knees. "Mom, look! I showed them how to draw our home." Bella kissed her forehead, pride blooming. She caught Alexander's eye, and in that moment he saw the depth of the love she carried. But as they left the orphanage, the press flocked around them. Reporters thrust microphones forward. "Mrs. Callahan, how does it feel to be the face of this charity?" Bella squared her shoulders. "It feels necessary. Every child deserves love." A camera flash blinded her. When she blinked, she noticed Marcus at the edge of the crowd, whispering with a journalist, an ominous exchange that set her nerves ablaze. That evening, in the privacy of Alexander's study, Bella reviewed press clippings. Headlines varied: Billionaire charity or publicity stunt, Callahan marriage, love or leverage. Beneath each, Marcus's insinuations gnawed at each narrative. Alexander stood by the fireplace, flames dancing across his profile. "He's spreading rumors that you're paid to play house, that Lily isn't mine, that you've kept her parentage secret." Bella's breath caught. "Lily is my daughter alone. He can't touch that." He moved closer. "Yet doubt is the deadliest weapon." She looked up at him, vulnerability flashing in her eyes. "Do you believe me?" His expression melted, and he cupped her cheek. "With every fiber of my being, his faith becomes my anchor." Suddenly, a soft chime from the mansion's intercom echoed, an urgent message. Alexander lifted the handset, his brow darkening. "Yes?" His jaw clenched. He handed the device to Bella. "Your daughter. She's been brought back to the orphanage, unconscious." Bella's world stilled. "Lily!" He nodded grimly. "An accident. They found her at the garden fountain." Bella's legs buckled. She staggered back, clutching at the desk. The photograph of her mother slipped from her blouse and fluttered to the floor. "No, please, not her." Alexander caught her, voice urgent. We move now. At the orphanage, medical staff pressed around Lily's pale form, monitors beeping in a frantic rhythm. Bella hovered at the door, torn between terror and fury. A nurse met her gaze. She fell into the fountain, found unconscious. We've stabilized her, but she's still unresponsive. Bella's heart shattered. How? Why? Alexander approached, anger blazing in his eyes. This wasn't an accident. Bella whirled to him. You think he did this? He nodded, jaw set. Marcus made threats. Bella closed her eyes, tears slipping free. He'll pay. She squared her shoulders. Tell me what to do. Alexander's hand wrapped around hers, strength grounding her. We find proof. We expose Marcus. Her gaze swept the sterile room. On a side table lay Lily's teddy bear, its stuffing soaked, one button eye missing. Bella cradled it, breath hitching. They can break her body, but not her spirit. Behind her, Alexander placed a comforting hand at her waist. Together, they stared at the monitors, plotting revenge, and vowing to protect what truly mattered. The sterile glow of hospital fluorescence hummed overhead as Bella paced outside Lily's room, her leather boots echoing on tiled floors. The balm antiseptic scent clawed at her throat, mingling with the floral undertones of Lily's lavender blanket. How fragile she is. Alexander appeared beside her, carrying 2 steaming cups of chamomile tea. He handed one to Bella, lips pressed in a thin line. Drink this, he urged softly. The warmth seeped into her palms, a small comfort. Bella sipped, the herbs soothing, the knot in her chest. She glanced at him. Thank you for everything. He nodded, as if the word held worlds of regret and resolve. She's my daughter now, too. Her heart clenched at the sincerity in his voice. Beneath his powerful facade lay genuine compassion, proof of the hidden kindness that first drew her to him. Late that night, Marcus Whitcomb stood beneath a single spotlight in his expansive office, the city skyline glittering beyond floor to ceiling. Windows. A malicious grin curved his lips as he organized files labeled Callahan, Sinister Links. He picked up a dossier on Bella. Background checks, credit histories, even therapy notes. An invasion of privacy fueled by greed. With deliberate slowness, he slipped a USB drive into his pocket, already envisioning how the rumors would shatter both her reputation and Alexander's empire. One scandal away from total ruin. He tapped a finger against the mahogany desk. Let's see how well they dance when the music stops. The following morning, a buzz erupted across social media. A leaked video showing Bella in tears as Lily was carried away from the orphanage, edited to imply she had abandoned her daughter. The caption read, Mrs. Callahan. Fake tears, real scam. Bella's phone vibrated incessantly. Each notification felt like a blow. The scent of smoked espresso from the cafe down the hall did nothing to steady her trembling hands. Alexander arrived, eyes blazing. Marcus planted this. It's doctored. She stared at the grainy footage, her desperate plea for help, cut abruptly to a shot of her walking away. Heartless in the editing room. People will believe what they see, Bella whispered, voice raw, even if it's a lie. He folded her into his arms, the scent of his cologne, a blend of cedarwood and rain, grounding her. Then we show them the truth. That afternoon, Bella met with Rosa, the orphanage's longtime director, in her sunlit office. The air smelled of old books and pencil shavings. Rosa's lined face was soft with concern. "Bella, these children adore you," Rosa said quietly, offering a plate of buttered scones. "They saw how you rescued Lily." Bella's eyes stung. "But the world sees the video," she sighed. Rosa placed a hand over Bella's. "We have footage from the security cameras. It clearly shows you rushing forward, shield in hand, calling for help." Bella's pulse quickened. "You'll give this to the press?" Rosa nodded. "We'll host a live feed from the orphanage, unfiltered, unedited." Her gaze gleamed. "Truth always wins hearts. Her kindness is my lifeline." That evening, at a hastily arranged press conference in the orphanage courtyard, floodlights illuminated the ivy-draped facade. Reporters clustered around a makeshift podium decorated with children's artwork. Bella stood beside Alexander. Lily nestled in her arms. The night air was cool, carrying the soft rustle of leaves and the distant croon of crickets. Clearing her throat, Bella lifted a USB drive. "This is the unedited footage," she announced, voice steady despite the millions watching online. "Please, see for yourselves." The projector flickered to life against the brick wall. First, Bella's panicked run toward the fountain. Then, her desperate cry for help as she shielded Lily. The montage ended with shots of Alexander cradling Lily, side by side with Bella. A hush fell. Then reporters murmured. Phones swiveled to live stream the truth. Marcus, watching from his penthouse, caught the broadcast on his tablet. His smug smile dissolved as the world saw his lie exposed. He slammed the device shut. As the crowd erupted into applause and Bella sank into Alexander's arms, her relief was tempered by a sudden chill. Across the courtyard's shadowed archway, a figure watched. A woman with ice-blue eyes and a scar, tracing her cheek. Someone from Alexander's past. Someone more dangerous than Marcus, stepping into the light at the worst possible moment. Her arrival will shatter the fragile peace we've won and drag us into darkness deeper than before. Crackle of flame ripped through the orphanage's old roof timbers, sparks dancing like angry fireflies against the night sky. Smoke curled through open windows, acrid and suffocating. Bella burst through the back door, her hair singed, lungs burning with each desperate breath. The children's terrified screams echoed down the corridors. Not again. "I can't lose them." She raced toward the nursery, where the door hung charred on its hinges. Inside, Lily huddled beneath a toppled crib, tears carving dark tracks down her soot-marked cheeks. With a roar, Bella swept her daughter into her arms and vaulted over a smoldering beam, her jacket catching fire as she landed. The heat was a living beast, but she forced herself on, every instinct screaming to protect these innocent lives. Behind her, the orphanage's staff ushered children through the smoke-filled hallways while Bella kicked open classroom doors, her heart a drumbeat of rage and fear. A thunderous crash shook the building as a ceiling beam snapped and hurtled toward the stairwell. Without hesitation, Bella shoved a young boy to safety, steel meeting flesh as the beam struck her side. Pain blossomed like wildfire in her ribs, but she swallowed the cry that threatened to escape. Leaning on Lily, she limped forward, guiding the remaining children through collapsing corridors. "I can bear this. I must." Outside, the desert's cool wind bit at her soot-streaked face as she staggered into the night, children clutching her skirts. Her boots slipped on spilled water as the orphanage groaned behind them, the roof collapsing in a fountain of embers. She looked down to find Lily's small hand pressed against her wound, bright crimson spreading across her blouse. "I'm okay." "Mama," Lily whispered, voice trembling. Bella forced a smile, every breath a dagger. "Yes, I'm okay." Moments later, paramedics swept in, lifting Bella onto a stretcher. She pressed her forehead to Lily's, eyes closing as the world spun into a haze of sirens and shouted orders. In the hospital corridor, fluorescent lights flared overhead. Alexander stood behind the paramedics, jaw clenched, eyes stormy with guilt and fear. He followed the gurney into emergency. Inside, doctors worked in urgent silence. Bella lay on the table, chest rising and falling in ragged rhythms, her skin pale beneath ash-gray bruises. Lily hovered by the glass door, tears pooling. Alexander stepped to her side, voice choked. "She saved them all, including my daughter." A doctor looked up. "She's lost a lot of blood. If we don't operate now..." Alexander's gloved hand closed over the doctor's. "Do whatever it takes." He turned to Lily. "Sweetheart, I need you to trust me." Lily nodded, clinging to her father's coat. "Mama will be okay?" "I have to believe it." Hours slipped by under the hum of machines. Bella lay comatose, IV lines like silver vines tracing her arms. Alexander sat beside her bed, contract papers crumpled in his fist, their 6-month marriage now seeming like a cruel joke. He watched her chest rise and fall, heart shattering with every silent breath. "I promised to protect you." Lily's small voice broke the hush. "Daddy, will she wake up?" He lifted her onto his lap, brushing her hair back. "She's the strongest person I know." Yet as he spoke, his gaze drifted to a flicker of movement in the doorway, a shadowed figure slipping inside the ICU suite. Before he could rise, the stranger's hand brushed the monitor, and the heart rate beep slowed to a single, ominous tone. Alexander lunged forward, but the room went black. The ICU lights flickered as Alexander lunged to steady the monitor. Lily's wide eyes mirrored his terror. A soft hiss betrayed the presence of someone slipping away down the corridor. Footsteps muffled by sterile tile. He sprinted after the figure, panic and fury propelling him past rows of empty beds. Around the corner, the stranger paused in the shadows, ice-blue eyes narrowing beneath a cascade of dark hair and a vicious scar. "Stay away from her," Alexander warned, voice low but steady. The woman smiled, cruel and knowing. "You should have paid me what I asked," she taunted, "or Lena would still be alive." Alexander's breath caught. You're his sister's killer," she shrugged, stepping into the pale light. "Accident? Sabotage? Your choice. You ruined my life first." She held up a slender keycard. "I almost finished the job. Next time, I won't fail." Before he could react, she slipped the card into the lock of a nearby supply closet, opened it, and tossed in a small vial. Its contents glinting ominously. "Consider this a final warning." With that, she melted back into the corridor's gloom. Alexander stormed back to Lily's side, glancing at the IV drip. The vial's seal had been broken. A dark liquid now mingled with Bella's blood. His stomach turned. He ripped the bag from the stand, turning to a nurse who'd followed him in. "Don't infuse another drop. Alert toxicology. Now!" Hours later, Alexander, eyes bloodshot, sat at Bella's bedside with Lily asleep on a small cot. Nurses bustled about, voices hushed and urgent. Toxicology results confirmed their fear. A slow-acting toxin was already in her system. Desperation clawed at Alexander's chest. He found himself torn between two impossible choices: save Bella, whose life hung by a thread, or transfer her to an experimental antidote trial that carried a 50% mortality. Risk? He pressed his forehead to the cool glass, speaking into the silence. Bella, I promised I'd protect you. I won't break that promise. Determination welded into resolve. He signed the consent forms for the trial, heart pounding as he pressed pen to paper, then placed them beside her hand. Shouldering his dread, he whispered a vow only she could hear. I'll carry you through this, no matter the cost. Deep in the night, Bella's eyelids fluttered. A soft moan escaped her as she reached for Lily's drawing resting on her nightstand, the child's pastel colors bright against the sterile snaps of monitors. Her fingers brushed the sketch, and memories rushed back. The flames, the sacrifice, the scent of chamomile tea. She gasped, eyes flying open. Alexander, seated nearby, exhaled in relief but stilled when he saw her wince. He rushed to her side, gathering her hand in his. Bella, thank God. You woke up. She tried to speak, but pain stole her breath. Gently, she squeezed his hand, nodding. Lily, her voice cracked. He lifted her gaze to the adjacent cot, where Lily stirred, rubbing sleepy eyes. The mother's heart soared. Gathering strength, Bella raised an arm, beckoning her daughter. Lily tumbled onto the bed, burying her face in her mother's shoulder. As dawn's first light filtered into the ward, Alexander and Bella shared a quiet moment above Lily's cot. Hope and exhaustion etched on their faces. Then the intercom crackled. A familiar voice, Marcus's, commanded entry. Mr. Callahan, press conference in 30 minutes. Canceling is not an option. Alexander's jaw clenched. Beside him, Bella's gaze hardened. The world demanded they resume their facade, but she knew their true battle was only just beginning. She pressed Alexander's hand. We fight together. He nodded, resolve flaming in his eyes. As they exchanged a vow of unity, the hospital door opened, and the ice-scarred woman slipped in, clipboard in hand, her lips curving into a predatory smile. Bella's breath caught, but determination shone in her eyes. Let her come, she whispered. Outside, the morning sun burned through the windows, a promise of light after the darkest night. And as their fractured family braced for the next storm, they stood ready to face the final crucible of love, sacrifice, and truth. Sunlight streamed through the grand windows of Callahan Hall as Bella and Alexander stood before the board of directors and the assembled press. The air was thick with anticipation. Perfume, polished wood, the subtle hum of cameras. Alexander cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen rumors and half-truths. It's time to lay everything bare. He stepped aside, and Bella placed the scarred woman, Alexander's sister's true killer, into a spotlight. Her confession recorded and live-streamed. No more secrets. In trembling detail, the woman admitted her sabotage. Poisoning Bella in the ICU, arson at the I-Toy orphanage, blackmail of the Callahan-Sinclair agreement. Shock rippled through the audience as security escorted her away. Bella's voice rang clear. I signed that contract to save my daughter. I never imagined it would ensnare me in a web of revenge. She looked to Alexander. But together, we uncovered the truth. Soon after, Marcus Whitcomb's empire began to crumble. Exposed for commissioning the doctored video and leaking Bella's private struggles, he faced legal action and public disgrace. Headlines shifted from Callahan marriage stunt to Truth triumphs, Callahan legacy restored. Justice can't be bought. In a final blow, Marcus was ousted from Newtek Global's board, his reputation in ruins, his power extinguished. That evening, beneath a rose lantern-lit arbor in the Callahan Gardens, Alexander led Bella forward. The scent of jasmine and night-blooming cereus perfumed the warm air. A string quartet played their waltz. He dropped to one knee, removing a velvet box. Inside lay a ring set with two entwined diamonds, one for his wounded heart, one for her courageous spirit. "Arabella Sinclair," he said, voice thick with emotion, "you bargained your name to save your daughter, but I offer you my name, my heart, and my life. No contract required. Will you marry me, truly and forever?" Tears glistened in Bella's eyes as she whispered, "Yes, for Lily, for us." They kissed beneath the glowing lanterns, two wounded, souls healed by love's steadfast promise. Months later, the Callahan Charitable Trust flourished. Lily drew vibrant murals on orphanage walls. Pencils and chalk provided freely. Bella oversaw programs, her resilience inspiring every child. Alexander stood beside her at the dedication ceremony. As he cut the ribbon, he addressed the crowd. True strength lies not in wealth or power, but in the courage to stand for those we love. Love means showing up when it matters most. Moral lesson: real love is found not in grand gestures alone, but in sacrifice, truth, and the unwavering choice to protect and uplift others, even at the greatest personal cost. Thank you for joining Bella, Alexander, and Lily on their journey through betrayal, sacrifice, and redemption. May their story remind us that love conquers fear, truth overcomes deceit, and kindness restores hope. Did this story touch your heart? Share your thoughts and blessings below.